Guys, today is 4th of July. The weather is beautiful. And then I want to say something. I want to express my wishes for the next chapter of American history. I love this country. Let me put this on, put the glasses on. I love this country first and foremost because the people are very nice. The other day, let me give you an example that I've been jogging since for about a week, and then I was not wearing sports wear. I just wear normal suit, and then there's one guy driving by, and then he stopped. And he specifically asked me, "Are you going anywhere?" He thought I was shocked because I was running pretty fast. He said I was rushing to the catch a train or something. He said, "I can give you a ride." I said, "I'm sorry." So those kind of thing, you don't see that probably you don't see that very often in China, for example, because that's the two countries I stayed. But anyway, so I hope American 250 years old, it's a fully grown adult. It's time to reassess its foreign policy, to develop a better foreign policy. I would say the first and foremost that to separate ourselves from Israel. You know, again, I'm nothing against the Jewish people. I keep saying that we have a very smart, peace-loving Jewish people in this country. I love them. But when it comes to countries, it's different matters because you have to think about this. There's a lot of Israelis. They're coming from Northern Africa. They're coming from Eastern European. There's non, democratic countries to begin with. And then when people, one thing I want to say that parenting is more powerful than politicians because there was one guy who claimed I learned from the online that one guy was saying that he is going to compete for the next prime minister to replace Netanyahu. Netanyahu, by the way, really should be gone. This guy is miserable for this country, but of course, it's not up to for me to say. It's up to the Israeli citizens to stand. However, there's one thing important that Netanyahu sent a letter or email, whatever, a phone call, whatever statement to Trump, our president, celebrating the American 250 years anniversary. He says that remember that although we may live on the different continent, that our destination will be the same. We share the one destination. I couldn't disagree more because, Americans basically, American has its own problem. Especially since Trump took over the power, it's broken many rules that it itself established in the international community, right? American has a setback, has a problem. It has going like a zigzag. It's not a straight, but that's only normal for the society, for a country, right? For the for the whole part, we still Americans are still proud of the fact that we are equal in front of the law. That's something that we can, for the most part, we can count on. Americans are trying to move into the equality, liberalism, and international order based on the rules rather than conquest. That's what Israel is doing. You know, Israel says that we're the people that we love peace, we love freedom. But you have to keep in mind that the freedom is based on the equality first and foremost. If even within the border of Israel, we can't even talk about the equality because there's it's a little bit different from the civil rights movement in the U.S. in the back in 1960s because in the law, on the paper, everything they're still saying that we are, Israel is one country, but there's a legal, structural, social discrimination against Arabics, you know, And then, so for example, a lot of the things that, for one thing that I just learned today, because I checked that before I do make this videos, I check on AI, I check on at least two. I check on the Gemini and I check on the Perplexity, because those Gemini it doesn't have a limit for how many questions you can ask. Perplexity, I rarely use it. They both confirm that absolutely many evidence that the Arabics, mostly Palestinian, of course, let's don't get me wrong, that the Palestinian citizen inside Israel, it's way much better. They have more freedom, more rights than the Palestinian in the occupied land, like Gaza and the West Bank, right? So, but still, they one example, I learned today is that in Israel, a lot of the rights and welfare is tied to the military service. But if you are Arabic Israeli, then you don't have to join the army. On the other hand, this you may seem, oh, that's nice. Then they're kind of exempting the Arabics, but here is the trick. A lot of it, scholarship, housing subsidies, government service, social welfare, they're tied to the military service. So that means automatically that, a lot of Arabic Israeli, they were exempted. They're exempted from military service, but also exempted from social welfare. So, and also when it comes to the legal, even when we talk about the laws, they still say that Israel is the country, Jewish homeland, right? So all the kind of things that shows that there is definitely unequal. Okay, for if you are Arabic Israeli, you definitely don't have the same right that you can claim there versus Jewish Israelis. Of course, that applies to immigrations. If you are Jewish, if you like, for example, if you are like what's her name, Ivanka Trump, because she married a Jewish husband. So once she arrived, the minute that she arrived in Israel, she will have a citizen because that's a citizenship based on the marriage to Jewish guy, or even you have like a Jewish grandpa, Jewish grandma, whatever those kind of things. That's a lot. So so this kind of thing. But if you are not non-Jewish, then sorry, you have to wait like at least the 3 year residence. So the process is much slower. So anyway, so what I'm saying is that even inside Israel, that there's no equality. Okay, even I mean, on the paper you may have equality, but even on the paper it's not a perfect equality. In practice, it's definitely not. And then when we walk outside Israel border, you can tell that Israel doesn't want to anything similar to the U.S. U.S. wants for the most part, the U.S. acted as a global police, right? So they want to keep the international order. Israel is anything but. They want to conquer. They're actually trying to establish the colonism, like in the 21st century. That's no other country is openly, openly say that as a practice in that, So all these kind of things make us that we really need to clearly separate ourselves from Israel. Keep in mind that what Israel wants, it's not, most likely, it's not a U.S. want. Okay, if you want to serve the U.S. American citizens, then you have to have a separate set of policy. Okay, this nothing against Jewish. I love Jewish. Like even the other day, some online post that was accusing that Taylor Swift are hiring Adam Sandler to be the officiated the ceremony. And then a lot of people saying, but when I did my homework, I did my research, I found that Adam Sandler is not that bad. I mean, he is pro-Jewish, pro-Israel. I'm sorry. Okay, he's a pure Jewish, and then he's pro-Israel, but also he also is pro-peace. He said that he pray for the innocent people in both Israel and the Palestinian. That's way higher. His moral standard is much higher than Netanyahu. Like than the people, the majority of people, especially Jewish Israelis, 80% of them they support, the killing of the majority, 80% of them may support the expel of the people, but and then so this kind of thing, I just want to say that's my wish. Okay, thank you. Very happy Fourth.